Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome everybody to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to have a fantastic show tonight. We have for hour one joining us, our guest tonight, Caroline Cory. You know her from Tear in the Sky, and she actually has a bunch of other movies, which I totally was unaware of. So we'll be talking about that and a lot more, bringing in Drew Banky for hour one. So this will be like a little group conversation as we go ahead and get into this here. Let me go ahead and take a look and see who actually came in. Now, courtesy Race Fan. That's what I say every time we come on air. Courtesy of Race Fan has let me know that he has the gold tonight, like always. And we also have Ann Joanne with the silver and Richard Minnick with the bronze. Okay, Richard Minnick, I see you out there. Let's see who else is coming in here. Yep, and Joanne. There's Richard Minnick. Thanks for coming in. Race Fan, always. Let's see. Who else do we have? Robert Lamoth Jr., Kitty Catty Whack. We got Frankie B. Frankie B out there. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you coming in for the After Hours on the weekend, the After Hours radio show. We have Wise Ass McCoy. Yeah, on a Saturday. Appreciate you coming on in, Wise Ass McCoy. It's going to be a great show. Who else do we have here? We have Invisible Tracker. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for showing up tonight. We have Ethanol saying, good evening, Ethanol. Appreciate you showing on up. Roger Murray is in the building. Hey, Roger Murray. Thanks for showing up. What else do we have? We're almost ready here. Welcome to the show, Major Lee. Hey, Major Lee. Thanks for coming in. Cody Eiler. Miss Catherine Jones. Thanks for coming in. JSCO77. Appreciate you showing on up. Kurt M. I see you out there. Road Flare saying hi, Rob. Hi, Road Flare. Thanks for showing up tonight. Paula Faust. Haven't heard that name in a while. Thanks for coming in, Paula Faust. Appreciate you showing up here tonight. We got $70 million man. Wow. Okay. With the alien head emoji. Thanks for showing up here tonight. Thanks for joining us on the After Hours radio show. And Chemical Summer, new name. Okay. I like that. We're going to go ahead and get ready to start the podcast side of this. I see you, Thomas Rock, as well. And let's start the podcast. So, welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to have a fantastic show tonight. We have Cory joining us for hour one, along with Drew Banky joining the conversation here as we get ready to jump into the show. And who knows what we'll do tonight. We'll do some other fun things as well. You don't want to miss this. We're getting ready to start radio here in a few seconds. Let's go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we'll be broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you could access our archives for absolutely free. YouTube.com/at Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website, it's Spaced Out Radio, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the manager here right there, Mr. Ron Bumble, and oh, so much more. Happy Saturday. Just glad to get into the weekend. We're going to have a fantastic show. We have Cory joining us, but Drew Banky as well, hour one here on the After Hours radio show. And you know, we don't delay any. We jump right into the content and right into the conversation. And that's exactly what we're about to do. So let me bring everybody up on stage here as we get this thing going. And that is Drew Banky. And that is Cory right there. That's her. I swear that's her. Let me move these things around. All right. Caroline, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate you hanging out with us tonight.
Yes.
Oh, she's muted.
Thanks so much for having me.
Fantastic. Tearing the Sky. Obviously, everybody knows you from that. And there's a funny story. Drew knows this. I had a UFO sighting August 22nd, 2022. August 28th, 2022. 47 objects. I live about 120, 130 miles from Catalina Island. Your documentary came out because I had my UFO sighting. I went all over the internet trying to find anything that looked like these objects. 47 in a formation. Your documentary comes out and you show the things that I captured. And I'm like, that's it.
What?
She caught the things that I filmed. Yes.
Are you serious right now?
I am so serious.
What? So you mean that, in the movie Tearing the Sky, we filmed this thing that opens and closes, and then like a bunch of stuff comes out of it? Is that what you got? Those
little dots, the specks in there? Yes. Yes.
Okay, why didn't you send me the footage?
I didn't know. You're so big time, and I was just so small fry, and I didn't know that it would get to you. But when I saw it, I was like, I need to show her this because I believe this is what she just filmed. So
send it to me.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Because to this day, nobody can explain what it is. So because we had all the scientists, as you know, in the film. For those who didn't see the film, Tearing the Sky, we had a team of scientists and experts dissecting, everything we were capturing, right? So they're mainstream scientists, very skeptical, but it's good because we wanted this skeptical, eye to look at things and tell us what it was. And so the first thing they do is say what it's not. You know what I mean? Like they say, well, it's a camera glitch. No, it's not, because, the camera was working fine, or we have different angles and, things like that. Or it's light, or it's dust, or, they try to figure out what it could be, because they don't want to just come to the conclusion that it's a UFO. And to this day, and they showed it, what's that conference where it's all like scientists working on with UFOs and stuff? Anyway,
There's
I think
a few of them,
yeah, this UFO conference. And they showed it to like 400 experts and scientists. No one can figure it out. It's not a glitch. It's not, like whatever they try to, it's not a weather anomaly. It's insane. Something that opens and closes and a bunch of stuff comes out of it. What do you call that?
A tear in the sky. That's what I call it. I said a tear in the sky. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it was. And then those
Tear in the
objects,
sky.
it makes total sense because they go that way towards Catalina Island, and
Yeah.
they go either in the water or they disappear. My objects completely disappeared. This was middle of the day, like 12 in the afternoon.
How many was there? How many was there, Rob?
47. There were 47.
Seriously? So did yours showed up and disappeared? Because ours, if you saw the film, it's like they came out of something, and then that thing, whatever it is, the cloud or something, closed. But then there's like a couple that popped out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's very confusing. It's not, so, and they said they thought there was about 50 or something like that, if I recall.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that lined up with it because mines were in this ball. They were in a cluster when I first saw them, and they were just moving in and out of each other like this, just really weird.
Oh.
And then they went into like a bird formation afterwards, like a V, and went across the sky. And I'm like, and then your documentary comes out, and I'm like, that's what they were. That's exactly what. So we may have the makings for Tear in the Sky too. I'm just saying, I'm gonna show you, and then you do exactly whatever you want to do.
Yeah, send it to me. But this area is known for those types of anomalies. I mean, there's been so many sightings, so much research, especially USOs as well, as you know. So, but I'd love to take a look, and as you know, in the film, what we did that was also unusual, different, what we wanted to do is to try to triangulate, try to get different perspectives of the same anomaly, because that's how you get data. That's how because usually, like, even if you have a bunch of people seeing a UFO, it's usually like from the same angle. So it's good data, but you want different angles. You also want different types of cameras. You want different spectrum. You want the night vision and the regular cameras, and you want the FLIR. So that's where you start to see, like, if you see something across multiple devices, different angles, now we're talking.
Yeah, you guys did awesome work. As someone said, I saw listed here, it was like for top 3 for them, and I gotta agree with that. But with you and James Fox, you guys are like right there for me as far as these documentaries go. Is you guys do great work, and we're gonna actually get into talking about, because I saw interviews that you were on early on when you were doing the promo run for Tear in the Sky, and I saw you mention that you were actually into this whole spirituality thing, which is what we're going to actually talk about after the break. But what I wanted to do is I never really get to see, it broken down as far as people getting to know who you are. So, like, let's talk about Caroline Cory before the films, before any of this. Did you ever have any experiences, and kind of what led you to where you're at?
Yeah, well, actually, I was very young. I was like 5 years old, and I had this paranormal experience, whatever you may want to call it. I was just there, and then all of a sudden, I saw like these beings in this light, and I kind of, how when you have experiences like this, you're not totally like processing in a normal way. You just kind of are in the experience. So it's kind of like I merged with this light, and all of a sudden I'm hearing words like telepathic communication. And so that experience was very, very significant, because I remember every detail, like to this day. And what it did is it taught me, like, because they were telling me that we are one and the same, like I'm on this side and they're on the other side. And they were telling me that like everybody is like that. And it's like the stream of consciousness that continues on and on and on, throughout the universe. So I could see kind of like my lineage. That's what I call like my lineage. So, and they were saying like this connection is never severed. So people who like talk to Pleiadians or talk to, people from, Arcturians or whatever. So it's that kind of line of communication that we have, even we are incarnated as humans. And so they told me that if I wanted this communication to be more conscious, I have to what my brain was doing at the time. So I'm like 5 years old, right? Like, I don't know what my brain's doing, So, but I kind of like concentrated and I said, I want this, kind of like that. And that was it. So what happened, like that connection stayed with me the rest of my life. It's kind of like a signature. It's a frequency that you recognize. And so of course I'm 5 years old. I didn't say anything. People ask me, well, did you tell your parents? I didn't tell anybody, because I didn't think it was special. I didn't think I was special. I was like, oh, that's what happens. And then, but later, like throughout my life, I would have these sort of similar experiences, or I would look at someone and then like I knew what was going on with them. I would say like, oh, he's got this problem, or, stomach problem, or whatever. And then it would turn out to be true, because they would tell me. Or so as I grew up, I was like, what is that? Like what's going on here, So I went to college to study psychology first, because I thought, okay, maybe there's something wrong with my brain. Maybe I'm like imagining things. I was like doubting. And later I realized like, no, I'm basically tapping into consciousness. It's something beyond the physical that we interact with spontaneously, and we can retrieve any information, whether we want to connect with an extraterrestrial or our own higher self or whatever. It's the same sort of process. And so when I realized, I was like, okay, but I want to know how do you do this? Like, how do you just go from speaking like a normal human to tapping into an extraterrestrial floating in space, like how? Yeah. So I dedicated my like 20 years of my life research and working on myself. Like I would sit for hours and hours and hours and hours, like meditating and trying to discern, okay, what's this frequency? What's the difference between this frequency and that frequency? How do I know I'm speaking to an Arcturian? Like maybe I'm making this up. How do I know what's the difference between an Arcturian and a seer? Like I kind of like wanted to create a methodology to be clear, like how it works and how we tap into these things. And I did. So then I started teaching, and then eventually we were having all sorts of, very positive results. Like people would download information, it would be true, or they would heal something they were struggling with the next day, things like that. So I started working with scientists. I was like, how do we tell the world that we're not crazy, that this is true, that we have the capability to see the subtle energy, to see beyond the three senses, the five senses, three senses. Sometimes it feels like three senses, I mean, that we have those capabilities to remote view, to communicate telepathically. And so I got together with some different scientists, and we would do experiments. And when you work with scientists, it's very rigorous. It's not like, hey, let's just try. I mean, we sit in a lab and we do what we call baselines. So we create a baseline. Like, let's say we want to change the pH of this water, for example, to show that the mind is doing something beyond the visible, right? So we would measure the pH of this water over and over and over a period of days, whatever. So that's the baseline. And then exactly at 3:00 on that day, you focus on it and you try to change the pH up or down, and it does. And the minute you stop, it stops. Then you do it again and you do it again. So that's how you have scientific data. So we started doing this sort of data for telepathy, telekinesis, those types of experiment. And like the scientists would be like, this is mind blowing. Like, how is, they don't know how it's working. They know it is working.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh my God, like, there's something, we just don't know how to explain it. So I call it the science of consciousness, and so I started making films. I said, the world, not everybody wants to go to a workshop. Not everybody wants to read books, but most people would watch a movie, So I started making movies. So there's quite a few right now. I think I have 3 or 4 of them that are out there. People can see, but the most popular one I want to say was Superhuman.
Yeah.
Superhuman, we did all these on-camera live experiments. So we have all these cameras, all this lighting and crew and equipment, everything else, and we would do experiment to, telekinesis or, whatever, things with water, things with DNA, people should watch the film. And it was mind-blowing. So, oh my God, I've been like talking for the last 5 minutes. But you asked me, but that's how I started out and how I, and I did have, of course, multiple UFO, experiences, more importantly, contact with beings. That's how my life kind of.
And the science of consciousness, I like that. And also the superhuman aspect too, because we talk about this all the time on this channel. And and the way I present it is, and also going back to the senses, the 3 senses, right?
What was up with that? What am I thinking? 3 senses.
But
I just downgraded the human.
we 5 that we know about, but we likely have way more than that. And then I call the senses that we do have more like superpowers.
Yeah.
So it's so crazy that you have Superhuman, and now I watched it, and a lot of the things you were saying in there definitely resonated with the way I feel about consciousness. And me and Drew and I, we sit here and we talk about this all the time. So that's awesome work. Now before because we're going to show the trailer for Superhuman here at the break, which is in 4 minutes. If you could, as far as the extraterrestrial experience or the contact goes, are you able to talk about like one of the first interactions that you had and kind of what the message was for you?
Can I jump in here real quick, Rob, before we move on from this point? Because we talk a lot of things I do personally, like in my interviews and on this channel before, I've demonstrated where I have people, like the viewers, have a pendulum and then a lighter, and then we talk about like a Bic lighter in the 3D sense, like it's a piece of plastic that's got butane in it, it's got a spring. And then we talk about it in another sense, that maybe it lit a candle, or maybe it lit sage, or maybe it lit a prayer candle in a church for a past loved one, and then it becomes really sacred. Or if you're out in the middle of a blizzard or something and about to freeze to death, how much gratitude would you show this lighter? and show the difference of the two ways of the pendulum, either a pendulum or dowsing rods. Either one of them works, and this is something that we've done over and over, demonstrations to show like how powerful words are, how powerful our thoughts are, because we do the demonstration first with words by speaking, and then I ask the people just to think about it and then watch it go back and forth. So then they can see the power of one, their words, and then their thoughts. So have you ever what's your thoughts on that demonstration, just to open up people like to experience it on their own?
Yeah, I love it. And also, so in the film, we did that with words and with thoughts. So one of the experiment was the girl, Karina, I think, we did it with the voice. So she would say positive things, and then her voice would, the frequency of her voice would convert into an image. And so it's kind of like a hologram, not hologram, like a hologram, like a mantra. I mean, what am I saying? Like a mandala kind of image. And so it was fascinating when she would speak. For example, we would say, "Okay, what's your favorite color?" So she would talk about things that she likes, and there was so much joy. So the colors literally would change, and actually it was insane. Like,
I love it.
and
I love it.
actually, just imagine that's in the movie. Imagine that the colors would actually turn yellow. That's insane. Like literally, she would say yellow, and then the thing would change, and it was all frequency. So it was just the frequency of her voice converting into an image. And then we would say, okay, well, think about something that makes you upset or angry or sad. And then I don't know what she was saying, her boyfriend or something, I don't remember. And then literally the image would get darker, and then like completely incoherent shapes and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's so much evidence. Of course, we know about Emoto with experiments with the water crystals. And then another one too, we did also with waves, and the girl was just thinking. She wasn't even saying the words. And we were picking up her EEG, and the EEG was converting into colors. And so when she would think positive thoughts, it would be this amazing, colors and stuff, and vice versa. So there's a lot of, oh, thank you for posting the trailer. There's a lot of actual measurable, Drew, this is measurable. I mean, this is something everybody can see. We're not imagining, we're not making stuff up.
I think this is a point in evolution where we're at right now. We're right at the beginning point of us. We're past the point of being alone. We're not alone in the universe. Now we're starting to understand our relationship. I got a very strong Native American background, done a lot of ayahuasca. Dr. Emoto and ayahuasca put together kind of blew my mind open and let me start to understand energy and experience energy and everything. So a long time ago. But we're at the point of actually showing like what happens after disclosure, because a lot of us consider ourselves post disclosure, on our own personal journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to stop like waiting for something to happen outside of us. We already are manifesting.
I knew this was going to be a great conversation.
Well, the questions are awesome. So.
And we are going to a break right now. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our break right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, we are clear. Okay, so let me now go ahead and bring up this trailer during the break here. And this is for Superhuman. Go ahead.
because the energy is all around us, you can communicate with all types of different things.
Well, what we do here is collect intelligence against foreign threats using a parapsychology discipline called remote viewing, and we essentially want to invite you to become a psychic spy.
We know our own CIA had been experimenting in psychic tests and abilities.
The Israelis, and we know for a fact that the Russians are. We know for a fact that the Chinese war, and probably still will.
Something's happening that's bigger than us.
Oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. Like, this is insane.
We are pieces of consciousness playing avatars in a virtual reality game called this physical world.
This is Captain Cory of USS Red Recorder, leaving a message that may be detected in other universes.
The rain was tapping, and the windows and the wind was banging.
So we sort of come to this world, and I guess in our materialistic sense, we want to forget about vibrations. We just want to think of matter, stuff.
The whole unit, that's a large effect. The fact that you can change the acid-alkaline balance in water implies that you could change it in the body.
This is what this is about. Mind over matter.
All right. And obviously everyone, I hope, has seen Tear in the Sky by now. But if you haven't...
In my personal opinion...
It's a great trailer.
Yeah. In my opinion, Superhuman will go down as one of the most important ones ever made. Like,
wow, thank you.
The other ones are interesting, you know, the crafts and stuff, but you know, talking about like what is going on in our own body during this time, like that's what's most important, you know. My opinion.
That I think this one is the trailer. With the third one, I think.
Oh, so
if you go to my main page, just go to the main, like refresh, just go to the main page. Yeah, that's the first one, is there? Yeah.
Okay.
Right at the top.
Yeah, that one.
There.
What has made
This is a great trailer.
is an insatiable curiosity. Insatiable. What is that? Nobody knows. The phenomenon.
Nobody's ever done this as far as I know.
It's a huge amount of work, a huge amount of data and equipment that has never been done.
Whatever this is more complex than we could ever imagine.
This is a first in the field of ufology.
The variety of devices we're bringing as a team to study the phenomenon covered an entire spectrum of different technologies in real time.
That moment shook me to the core because I knew my life was about to change again.
I think we're going to have like a couple of really, really good spots.
When I hear that you've assembled a team of top scientists using state-of-the-art equipment, I say to myself, it's about time.
This is an unidentified, unclassified new phenomenon.
Wow. Tic Tacs. Maybe Tic Tac.
Maybe.
Caught on our cameras.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Crazy. It isn't crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
We can go from body heat to very cold, like about minus 62 Celsius or minus 80 Fahrenheit. Wow. We will be transmitting data up to 800 terahertz in frequency. Our highest technology is up around 500 gigahertz.
I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to seeing what you've uncovered.
We're triangulating and converging at 2 points, the same object.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's friggin' gone.
That's something over, Catalina. We need you up here.
We could be heading towards the biggest "see I told you so" in history.
That's what we need, the smoking gun that'll clinch it. that once and for all will settle the debate. No ifs, ands, or buts. And in the process, rewrite all.
We got to stop it right there. We're coming back with radio right now. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are having a fantastic conversation here, joined by our guest, Caroline Cory, director of so many different documentaries that I feel like are important to humanity and how we move forward. If you missed any of the conversation so far, make sure you jump in our archive. Absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. Jumping back into the conversation as you were going to break, you were getting into the whole superhuman aspect in the movie that you had put out. I would like to know what is your definition of consciousness? If you were to explain this to someone, how would you do that?
Yeah, thanks for this question. Most people think consciousness is the fact of being conscious, aware. I think it's a lot, much more than that. To me, consciousness is a fundamental substance. It's the energy from which everything is created, emerges. So imagine this fundamental substance from which you have the planets, the stars, the universes, intelligent life, you, me, everything else in between. So if up here we are units of consciousness, meaning we came out of it, but then we have our own individual consciousness, this means that we are very unique as we emerge. We're very different. We are different than the planet. The planet is different than the star. However, our common denominator is the same substance. So at the core, at the base of our existence, we are all connected by the same fabric. So to me, that's consciousness.
That is an awesome answer. And I think likely the correct answer, because Drew and I as well, we've talked about this very same thing here, where I felt like, and it's probably going to be exactly what you just said, but like this energy, the energy that powers us, it's the energy. We call it, right, the source, Drew, right? Is what we call it. And so this energy exists from right here within you to clear across the universe, to the other side of the universe, within the planets and what makes everything move. And it makes sense that we have the ability to feel each other even when we are not in each other's presence, and like intuitions and those sort of feelings, gut feelings, all tie into that.
Exactly, because at the core, at the base, we're all coming out from the same fabric. So we are interconnected no matter what, even though up here on this level, we think we're separated. I have a different body and I'm here, you're there. But at the core, if we are interconnected, this also explains entanglement, explains telepathy, explains, because you have this common denominator, everything starts to make sense.
I was channeling a while back, and when I was channeling different entities, and when I first channeled Source, and then everything else like faded away, but the very first channeling from Source was, I am the source of all creation. You are the creator through your power of manifestation. Step back into your power to facilitate the upcoming evolutionary shift. And that's on the back of my first book, but that one channeling, it made sense at that time, but even that was like 5-6 years ago now, and it makes more sense now. It keeps making more sense over and over. Those words are more true, like as time goes on, especially as we see like what's going on in the world, what's unfolding in our 3D reality right now. We can kind of tell what's going on in the spiritual realm from what's going on in the 3D realm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I love what you're saying, because at the end of the day, if we understand that principle, then we would be a completely different species. Why would I want to harm you if I am at the core of my being connected to you? like that, you know, what people call karma, whatever. It's not punishment. It's actually a physical law that if I'm connected to you, what I do to you is going to come back to me. Like, it's kind of like I'm harming myself. So I think I'm blown away how we don't teach such principles like to our children, like in school. Like what do they teach us? Like geometry and like geography or whatever. I mean, geometry is good, I have to say, but you know what I mean, like geography and like how to use a compass, or like when was the last time you used that information? But if we are taught, like, who are we? Like, how are we made? Like, what is consciousness? Like, when I have a feeling, when I'm struggling with something, what does that mean? Where do I go? You know, all of these important things that we need as we grow up as human beings. Like, this would be an entirely different civilization.
No, I'm totally with it. You know, I totally believe in the Christ consciousness thing. You know, Christ coming back in the form of consciousness through each and every one of us, with the understanding. This is the difference that I talk about a lot. It's the difference between having a theory of oneness and actually living an actual truth of oneness. You know, I'm a sun dancer, I'm a sacred pipe carrier. I've had near-death experiences and been drinking ayahuasca since 2016. So I walk with this truth in every day, like everything that I see. Do I lose my temper at times? Do I get angry? Yes. But at the core of my understanding, I'm looking at a reflection of myself in every single moment of every single breath. So
exactly. And then when, like, people think that once you reach that level of understanding, like, you never get angry, you never get sad. No, that's not how it works, because our emotional system is our guidance system. In other words, as I'm interacting with the world, somebody says something, okay, let's say I get angry, but I'm getting angry to have to decide how I'm going to react. You know, they triggered something in you. What is that thing? Is it something I need to work, on myself, or do I need to say something or not say something, whatever? So the idea is that anger is guiding me to understand who I am and how I should be and what I need to create. So that's what I'm saying. Like, even the anger is purposeful, even the sadness is purposeful. That's how you start to be an intelligent human. You're not just like, oh, I'm angry, let me punch you back. I'm sad, let me just go, like, shoot some dope. You know what I mean? Like, that's stupid. That's stupid human. But intelligent human is using all these things to understand, to say, okay, stop, look, what's happening here? And I think, again, I'm going back, like, it's kind of, this is something I'm working on, but imagine if we are teaching the children, like, just to understand their emotions, to process them correctly. We would have no wars. We would be, and then when we talk about extraterrestrial and, like, we're not alone in the universe, it starts to make sense. It starts to evolve you as a human, move you to a whole different level. That is the civilization, we are heading towards. I think 2025, I think we made a very big, important turn. I don't know about you guys, but I think the age of the truth is here.
Yeah.
Everything is coming to the surface. There's no more hiding. No more hiding. So the truth about who we are, the truth about, extraterrestrial life, all of that is coming. First, let's dish up all the dirt from, corruption to, this and that. And then this is all coming to the surface.
I asked ayahuasca one time, when are we going to have disclosure? And she come back with a quick answer. She said, disclosure will come when each individual learns to look in the mirror and understand their relationship to the stars.
Exactly. And so I think we're starting to see that sort of disclosure in the government, it's pretty incredible. All these, child trafficking rings and corruption with money and big pharma, all of that stuff is coming. And so I think it's just going to be the next level, the next step, probably by 2026, 27, I think it has to.
So let me ask you this, Caroline, because I know you get into teaching how to unlock yourself, essentially, and the reason why I say that is that I have the belief that some people are born unlocked and don't need assistance. I believe as well that some people need tools to unlock themselves that they come across, like ayahuasca, sometimes other hallucinogenics. Some people have the ability to simply sit down and meditate and unlock themselves. What are some of the methods that you teach in order for a person that may not have, figured it out yet to make that connection with consciousness?
Yeah, I love your question. Well, first of all, everyone is capable of connecting with spirit, with ETs, with who they are as an original essence, connect to source, all of that. It's an innate within us, within our DNA, to be able to do that. That's why I had the experience when I was 5, and I spontaneously opened back to this whole realm. Spontaneous. Nobody who teaches you that at 5, right? But I think what happens with as you grow up, your parents tell you stop talking to invisible people, your friends laugh at you, and so on and so forth. Of course, even till recently, when you talked about UFOs, people would be rolling their eyes. So society has been very hard, and we've been repressing these innate abilities. So some people are affected more than others. Some people allowed themselves to just, do whatever, no matter what. And they were able to maintain these abilities or strengthen them. So because of that, I created multiple methodologies. And when I started, I was telling you, I spent like 20 years working on consciousness and, all of that kind of stuff. I said, look, how do you meditate? So you heard about transcendental meditation at the time, and then this kind of meditation and this and that. And I was like, how do you know, like, which one, right? So like I said, I would sit in for hours and hours and hours, and I would meditate this way just by calming down. Then I would meditate that way by expanding. Then I would meditate by connecting to, my higher self, and that would feel different. Then, so I tried different things until I connected back to the beings that came to me originally, that brought that signature, the one frequency, the signature, which was source. When you reach that frequency, nobody has to tell you or explain to you, because every cell in your body recognizes this is where you came from. This is who you really are. I'm not talking about a past life or some planet you were on. I'm talking your original, pure essence, pure energy, before you were ever encapsulated in any form, human or otherwise.
Yeah.
So when you reach that, when you are in that state and you are your original pure energy, you know everything, you remember everything, you are everything. Does that make sense? And there's this feeling of that's it's exquisite, and it's a feeling of no need. There's no need, which means that as a human, you always need something. Like you're tired, or you're hungry, or you're thirsty, or you got to do something. Like your energy is pulled linearly this way or that. Does that make sense? But when you are in that state, you just are.
Yeah. So
that so that when I realized this is the meditation that gets you anywhere you want to be, because that's the beginning of you and source. So I called it connecting to source.
Yeah.
So originally so it's free on my website. People can download it and listen to it every day. And I made it quite simple. I packed that frequency through my voice because I experienced it, obviously. And so people can feel that connection back to their original essence. It's absolutely exquisite.
Do you remember a certain tone that you heard, like a hum or a tone? Because I remember the first time I went to the throne room or source or whatever you want to call it, like the center of everything. But I remember I brought back this tone and I replay it through my didgeridoo. Like it's a certain like low, really low hum. And the way it was explained to me, it is the sound of the universe of creation flowing, and any small variation, that's just variation in, just a new galaxy being created or destroyed or something like that. That's that small variation in that hum. Do you remember anything like that?
Yes, it's a very low, very, 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 very low, and it's more of a wave, I want to say, than a tone. Like it's like beyond what you can hear, but you can kind of hear. It's absolutely magnificent because it's like all your cells become the universe. It's like it's a sound, but it's also a sensation, but it's also, it's like all at once. It's absolutely amazing. So that's why I created the connecting to source as the base of everything else. So from there, I have a methodology for, healing and clearing, getting into your subconscious, clearing blocks. From there, also, you start with that. Then you do the creative stuff. Like, okay, I want to create this. Where am I stuck? Why am I not? Those kinds of things. So all these classes are on my website, carolinecory.com. And then people can explore. But if you don't have that base, you know what I mean? Like, where are you starting? So it's a beautiful thing.
Man, we're running out of time. We're just now getting into what I want to really talk about. But both my books my first book is I'm Perfect and So Are You, and talks about the divine nature of creation. And the second one is Find Your Inner Guru, talks about like what to do after your awakening moment or source moment. Like how do you integrate that into your life? But man, what else you got left, Rob? I know you got a million things.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, so let me ask you this, Caroline. So it sounds like especially anytime I see someone that has been introduced to this at a young age, and really even when you feel this passion to kind of push this, it feels like you may have a purpose or a duty as far as bringing this to the people and kind of doing your part to spread the word on this. What do you hope to accomplish by the end when you're ready to hang it all up? What do you hope to see, or as far as the changes within society or humanity?
The biggest thing you understand when you have these sorts of experiences, like when it's on a cellular level, it's not that you read a book or somebody taught you something and you're just repeating. It's something that you actually experienced. When you have those experiences and you go back to your original, like I said, essence of who you are, you realize that your purpose is to broadcast that energy. That's your work. First of all, the first thing for you to know that the fact that you have shown up as a human, you've already completed your purpose, because this means that you have brought your original frequency and or your extraterrestrial DNA or what have you. And as you show up as a human, you've already integrated that original DNA within the human DNA, and then you are already pushing the human evolution forward because your unique DNA is already contributing to that. So that's, you already are done. Everybody should be happy. The second thing, okay, so now I'm bored, here I am. What do I do the rest of the time? If you understand, if you get a sense of who you are as a being, as an energy, it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you are broadcasting that energy through what you do. So if I want to write a book, if I want to make a film, if I want to be a podcaster, if I want to be an influencer on social, it doesn't matter. What matters is to awaken to that original you and to integrate it in your work. So that's, I understood that. But then what happens is that you get not guided, you get pulled in certain direction. In my case, I was pulled through the arts. So I did performing arts. I started out in performing arts, even though, like I said, I studied psychology, to be a psychologist and help people. But I was very interested in like music and dance and performance and film and stuff like that. And I realized that that's how I was contributing. That is my purpose, is that through whatever artistic expression, even writing a book, if I am embedding my frequency in that work, that's my purpose. So I don't know when I'm going to be done, but I keep getting like the next chapter and the next chapter. And each time it just flows. It just absolutely flows. Like I've written 3 books in 3 years. Boom, boom, boom. Usually I finish 1 film in a year, which is very fast. The idea comes, all the people show up out of nowhere, the funding comes, the post-production comes, the distribution comes, it's like boom, boom, you know what I mean? Everything starts to flow when you are clear on your purpose. And more importantly, when your intention is just to do your higher purpose, no distractions. Don't send me people who are gonna like drag me right and left, or don't send me, like experiences who are gonna pull me right. I don't want to waste my time. Just bring me the work that I'm here to do, and the things flow.
What's next?
So I am finishing Superhuman 2 this year, so that's going to be exciting. Also, the sequel of A Terror in the Sky, we'll see. It's going to take a little bit longer. And then working on mental health. I have a book that's coming out very, very soon on mental health. So that's what's coming. Like a lot of focus. The Therapy Room is also a show on mental health. I talk about mental health, but it's more about the mind. It's about really, really understanding our mind and having a healthy mind, because we are a messed up society. There's still a lot of struggle. So the book's coming this year soon. Also a workshop. I have a workshop next month, by the way, March 28th. If anybody wants to join, it's on my website. The book in a month or so, and Superhuman 2 coming this year. Quite a lot.
Awesome stuff. As we have about 30 seconds left here, I wanted to point out, we better not F this up. I like that, and I think that really kind of says where we are in this moment, and the chance that the opportunities that we have to steer humanity in the right direction. And it's by doing the type of work that you do and the type of work that we do right here on the After Hours Radio Show, by having these conversations that move the needle. I definitely thank you, Caroline, Cory, for coming in. It was awesome. Hopefully we can do this again, and we'll go ahead and reach out to you guys. We'll be back right after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, and we are going to break. All right, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. And we're in hour number 2, and we're gonna just do our 3 stuff right here in hour 2, and do the Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries, and then the wrap up here, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the show tonight. Definitely want to thank our guest Caroline Cory for coming in and being an awesome person, and just having a conversation with us. So yeah, we hopefully we'll do that again at some point. But hit the like button if you liked what you heard, and make sure if you missed any of it, hop in the archive. We're going back to radio right now. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We're in after hour number 2. We want to thank our awesome, fantastic guest, Caroline Cory, for coming on in and just being an awesome soul and doing the work that needs to be done to move the needle. That's what we're all about here, Space Out Radio, After Hours radio show. We're going to be jumping in some Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries with Steve Stockton, and then also the After Hours wrap up with Drew Banky, the guy sitting right next to me. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on into old Stevie Stockton. And like I say before we play every time, it is an honor to have Steve Stockton as a part of the After Hours radio show. Stories are so awesome. And who knows, we may get a double dose of Stevie tonight, but we'll see. Let's go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. However, most state that these creatures are master manipulators. And should you come across them, never under any circumstances enter a deal or arrangement with them. Again, they are considered to be master manipulators and also masters of language, and can find loopholes and use linguistic trickery to fool you into dealing with them for you to only too late realize you don't stand a chance at getting what you want or supposed to get, and yet the Fae get everything they are supposed to out of the deal. They will always benefit, mostly at the detriment of the other person. As they say in Vegas, the house always wins. Here are a few rules of engagement when it comes to these mystical beings. Never insult them and always be polite. Try your very best not to anger them, as this is how most people end up disappearing. If you ever get the feeling you're being watched by something invisible or get a sudden feeling you're not supposed to be where you are, turn around and leave immediately. Now, they do love presents and gifts. However, choose what you leave for them very carefully, as if whatever it is isn't sweet, your positive gesture can quickly turn into a negative experience. Think hard candy or other sugary sweets. Also, never use the words thank you or I'm sorry. For some reason, it is only acceptable to state pardon me and I appreciate that. The fairies have been known to sometimes speak in riddles, and there's almost always some kind of hidden meaning underneath what they're saying, so pay close attention and listen carefully. For instance, as one commenter on another video pointed out, I'm sorry admits fault, while pardon me simply asks for forgiveness. Also, thank you will put you in their debt, whereas I appreciate that simply expresses gratitude. Now, what do you think of all these encounters? Every culture since time immemorial has had these stories of the Fae or the fairy folk, including the Native Americans in Appalachia, where I'm from. Do you believe these people exist? Do you believe that they are who cause people to disappear in the woods and forests and never to return? It seems lately that with all the craziness happening in the world, it's becoming easier and easier to forget about all the things that could be even worse going on in the world around us that we can't see. Seems like every time we turn on the television, there's just more and more destruction and chaos. And it gets me wondering, is this what they want? Is this all a very carefully carried out plan to take the focus away from the world of the unknown, to make sure we don't get too close to figuring out the truth about what really goes on behind the scenes? The things the powerful elite and possible government entities who we are indoctrinated to trust since the time we learned to talk don't want us to see? What is it they're trying to distract us from? Well, what we're going to focus on today is a continuation in the bizarre disappearances in the woods. After all, the families of the missing can never be distracted into forgetting that their loved one was here one minute and poof, gone the next. In researching the Fae and the connection with those who vanish, I have a feeling inside that I came so very close to touching on something. To lifting or at least thinning out the veil that separates the actual truth from the reality we're taught to believe. After all, if you're subscribed to this channel and interested in this title, it stands to reason that you, too, are wondering what exactly is lurking in the woods. In the deep, dark parts of the world's forests and national parks, something is snatching and stalking helpless humans, seemingly right out of existence. Come and take another walk with me, folks, as I explore the deepest depths of not only the reality we see right in front of us, but perhaps the hidden worlds of the unknown, in the deepest, darkest depths of our very minds. But be careful. Don't be the first or last in line. Don't go near the boulder fields. Don't pick berries. Don't wear red. And don't insult that which you're unfamiliar with. And please, whatever you do, don't turn a corner and separate from the group. Here's part 2 of The Missing and the Fae. Before we begin, let's all try and get the images out of our head of the fairies, fae folk, that we were taught about as small children. The tiny, sparkly, and happy, always trying to help and devastatingly beautiful creatures who flutter around us wildly, sometimes sprinkling us with sparkly fairy dust to help us to sleep. Well, maybe something like that, as far as the fairy dust is concerned. But I'm convinced that there is something much more sinister afoot, that these very small, usually ornery and not so helpful beings use to confuse and put humans to sleep so they can steal them away, take them from the here that is known to there, which is unknown, or the other. If only it were simple and cutesy and fun as a little sprinkle of glittery dust and poof, all our troubles go away. In reality, however, it's more like sudden confusion which causes unrelenting panic as the hapless victims of these clever little tricksters, in the blink of an eye, find themselves completely lost, completely turned around, dazed and confused as to what just happened and where they are. Sometimes days are lost, sometimes more, and sometimes the victim is gone forever, lost to whatever game the fairies decided to make them a part of. Imagine, completely helpless, alone and afraid, screaming at the top of their lungs, only to find that they have no voice. Now, these little people are not always so little. While the majority of them are said to be under 4 feet tall, most even shorter, some have been said to be as tall as 7 feet. Just like humans, the way they look varies drastically from one to the other, with all having different facial features and personalities. Let's talk about some similarities between what's going on in the woods with all the clusters of missing people all over the world and what we know about the Fae. First off, boulder fields, and circles of stones in particular, should never be disturbed. This is where they live and play, and you do not want to disturb their home or resting place. They don't take kindly to anything they see disrespectful, and as seemingly very sensitive little creatures, that's most anything they don't give you permission to say or do. Do not even approach such places unless you're prepared for the fate that lay ahead of you, should you dare. After all, how could you be granted permission to do anything by entities in which you can't see with your human eyes unless they should choose to allow you to look upon them, which they most often do not give? If they ever should grant you this permission to gaze upon them, be wary, for they almost always have something up their sleeves. If you do not come prepared with gifts of sweets, alcohol, and or tobacco, do not expect a very generous welcome. In fact, if you do not bring such gifts, I suggest stay away altogether, as this will anger them. And they carry such great wrath for being so very tiny in size for the most part. There seems to also be an inordinate amount of people who go missing near berry bushes. You may be struck with an unexplained need to go and fill several baskets with juicy plump black or huckle or red or blueberries. There are too many kinds to name out there in the wild. We see all the time in movies about survival in the deep woods and forests that you should always beware of eating the berries to stay alive, or they might just be poisonous and, ironically, the very thing that kills you off. However, who do you think has poisoned the berries? Struck with a sudden and irresistible impulse to go and gather the fresh fruit, you're most likely lured by the fae to your doom. They like to play, after all, and among the bushes and brambles of the berry patches is where they're known to do their dancing and mating. This is where they embrace the earth and sing with all their heart, sometimes fully visible, and most of the time at least audible to humans who are unfortunate enough to be in the general vicinity of them. If you should catch a glimpse of a dance or even a whisper of a tune, turn back, for they do not like to be disturbed. Again, they only like to be seen and heard if they choose it. If their choice should be taken away, then there will be consequences. Could this be the fate of so many who have disappeared among a berry patch in recent years? My advice? Go to your local grocer's produce section. They may not be as fresh picked, but hey, at least you won't be lost forever in the produce aisle.
Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries. So awesome to have Steve Stock to be a part of the show like that. And I'm feeling like I want to almost change the title of his show for him, because in that instance, that sounded like Tales Untold, Taken Persons Mysteries. When somebody gets taken by these things called the Fae, sounds like Steve Stockton says, you don't want to run into one of these things. And if you do, X, Y, and Z, and believe me, I'm taking notes as we get ready to jump into the after hours wrap up. And we're going to do that with our guy right here, Drew Banky. He's already right here, but we're going to bring him in like he was never here. Here we go.
You're an irredeemable monster! Come here, I'm going to eat you! Get in my... Yeah.
Catch him in the north! He doesn't have north! Go it! That man's got north!
You're a monster!
Yes, the after hours wrap up with none other than Drew Banky in the building. Drewski. This is the after hours wrap up, so you know what time it is. How was the interview?
Man, didn't disappoint. That's all I got to say. You know, I wish we would have had more time. You know, luckily we got her in last minute. You know, and for an hour, which she's a busy person, and man, an hour it was. You know, it flew by. I felt like it was just a few minutes. You know, and before we knew it.
Yeah, and you know, she's everything that you've seen, you know, on that you would expect. Very nice lady. And it was no glazing going on here. We were telling the truth when it comes to, you know, where her films are ranking in this conversation. And I've been waiting to talk to her since I had my sighting, because I'm gonna send her the stuff, but and I might be in Tear in the Sky too, I like that. But I've been waiting, because as soon as I saw Tear in the Sky, and I saw those objects that they showed in the Tear in the Sky, those things looked exactly like my objects, and I want to know. I can't wait. That's why if we had more time with her, I'd have been able to show them during the show, and then she could have let us know right here live and direct. But we'll set her up, see if she can see if she'll be available for some other time. And she'll already have seen these photos and videos and been able to elaborate more on it later. So that's actually an awesome setup right there. I think she might hopefully connect some dots for me. You know what I mean?
Look, I'll let you in. She's already messaged me, and she was very excited. So So I'm sure we'll be able to get her back sometime soon. And yeah, but yeah, she's already. I've just looked down at my phone. She's already messaged me. So
Awesome
and
stuff. I'm
it's
glad
great
she
news.
enjoyed herself.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
I do want to shout out. I do want to shout out how this connection all started before we move forward. So I went to Vegas to the Sean Kelly. Shout out to Sean Kelly. If you're listening to this, I did send him a link, so he may be listening to this later on. But shout out to you, brother, for setting up this whole thing. When I got done with my interview out there in Vegas at the beginning of January, I was coming out, and Caroline was the next person to get interviewed right after me. So we met at the doorway. I was coming out and she was going in to do her interview with Sean for the Digital Social Hour. So, I knew at that point when I met her and shook hands, I've been waiting to meet her for a while. I've looked at her work and I knew that we would be on the same wavelength. So yeah, it's just, those connections when I guess it's that's another part of this whole conversation, like what do we do moving forward, like with this understanding and everything. Well, if you see patterns happening, you can start to foresee patterns when they happen. Like instead of like hindsight 2020, you can start seeing patterns when they happen. I knew when me and Caroline met, there was a reason. Like actually, I knew it like before. I didn't even know that it was going to be she was the next one for the interview. I knew there was going to be someone after me, so I knew there's going to be someone in the green room waiting to be interviewed after me, but I had no idea who it was. But I kind of got the message almost before, as my interview was coming down. I was like, okay, I got to pay attention to whoever this is waiting out there to be interviewed, and it was Caroline. Like so, and we're obviously, yeah, we obviously on the very similar thought processes and understandings of how things work and everything. So yeah, it's just interesting to watch how the universe puts everything together. But shout out to Sean for providing that space and being another part. We all met there. By the way, that video is over 13,000 views on YouTube right now.
Nice.
And one of the clips just broke 270,000 views on one of the clips.
Wow.
On Instagram. So yeah, to start to have videos to be at that level and reaching that many ears and is pretty humbling. So
yeah, that's big stuff, man. Numbers talk, man. Numbers talk. Loving to see getting into those 6 digits, 7 digits, 8-digit numbers. You know what I mean? So that's awesome. Awesome stuff, man. Let's see here. Did you have anything else about the interview?
Man, just her thoughts on source or everything. And I loved that I got to ask the question of the hum of that. And it's like everyone that's had like a source, quote unquote source moment, whatever definition you put on that, but it's this moment where you kind of like melt with the universe, like she was so eloquently explaining, which I'm not in this moment, but that moment, there's a hum and there's like this some type of vibration that you hear and you bring it back. And I've heard many people, not only myself, but I was given like the didgeridoo to recreate that noise, and I recreate that noise in my ceremony. It's one of the main vibrations I use when we're in deep ceremony. I bring that vibration back and channel it through and remember it and then channel it through the didgeridoo. But she, I don't know if she chants. It sounds like she chants or something like that to bring that vibration back. But many people bring that vibration back, and just to what she said of answering the question of when this is going to be done or what is her legacy moving forward. Like that question doesn't quite make a total sense, and I understand what she's saying. Like it's not a point of ever being, it's not, once you get the calling and touch that vibration, your total mission is to try to bring that to the rest of the crowd. because it is so healing, it is so unifying, it is so spiritual, it is so deep that you just want to share it with everybody, because you understand true healing outside yourself comes from helping others heal because of that interconnectedness. You see not only your own wants and needs fulfilled, but you see the wants and needs of the masses. And if you can affect that in any way, you understand that will revert back to you, because your consciousness is now outside of yourself. And she was just explaining that so deeply, and there's no doubt that she's had very similar experiences that I've talked about over and over again. And her book Superhuman, or her documentary Superhuman, if you haven't looked at it, it's probably one of the most important things you could view, because there's proof and there's ways that are just explained of things that we've talked about before several times with the pendulum, lighter exercise that I've done several times on this show. So
this is true. This is true for sure. And yeah, I mean, we know consciousness is fully a part of what's going on here. Yeah, I watched it earlier today, Superhuman, and I was checking out some of the techniques, some of the science that was being done there. And yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that there is a level of, connectivity on as far as human to human when it comes to communication, or just your aura, your energy, whatever you want to label it, ends up being, I think, comes back to the same thing. So that it's cool to see different people essentially having the same conversation, but in their own way and from their own point of view, from their own experience, and being able to kind of resonate with the group and see that everybody is connected to this. It makes sense. I mean, when you look around, and we talked about a million different, things that show you this, which are like things like gut feelings and all these different senses that you have as a human being that other people also experience. And then the fact that you can think about something which I guess leads into the remote viewing part of it, and you're able to see these things and you're not even present. But it makes sense though at the end of the day, once you realize that it's all interconnected, and why wouldn't you be able to see this stuff?
It's almost like it's this another phase of disclosure, or another facet of disclosure, which I was just thinking of it would be a good label for it, would be integration disclosure. It's not about research disclosure or experience disclosure. This is integration disclosure. What is the ultimate goal of disclosure? I believe it's, like I've said a million times, it's our evolution of humanity it's the point we're going through right now, and we're going through a jump in evolution. We're moving into a different age, and it's very obvious what's going on around the world in our 3D reality. It's ringing truer more and more that this is happening right here and now, and we're actually living through this moment, this magical moment that's going to be talked about for eons in the future.
Yeah, if the asteroid doesn't hit first, hopefully, right? Because I did a show on my channel called Asteroid Before Disclosure. Could it really be 2032? This asteroid may hit the planet Earth, and is it really even fathomable that we would get that before we would actually get disclosure? Oh my God! By the way, you can check that show out on my channel, Social Dig. YouTube.com/Mr. Rob G. You may be watching this show right now from there. If you are, go ahead and hit a like, and please hit the subscribe. Think about coming back as we get ready to go to break right now, and we'll be coming back talking about more of what we talked about tonight and some other things, right? Doing some things a little different as we move things around a little bit on the After Hours Radio Show right here on Spaced Out Radio. Don't go anywhere. Clear. Hey, Shelley Montgomery. I didn't get a chance to say hi to anyone except the beginning of the show. So many people that came through and said hi. Human Data, I saw you out there. Also, Nilrim Kane. Let's see. Who else? And Joanne. Cat's Tongue. There were some others I was watching through the show. Dead Fish Cheese Spread.
I had a hard time paying attention to the chat. What did the chat think of Caroline?
Oh, they love Caroline.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I mean, that's what I mean. Everyone knows, if you're in this field, you've seen Caroline, you're familiar with their work. Yeah. But they probably didn't know too much about the consciousness side of it. Because that film wasn't really, I believe it came out before Terror in the Sky, and it just didn't have the focus wasn't on that. It was on Terror in the Sky, which is there's a reason why. Yeah, William Shatner and Miku. What's his name? I always get his name wrong. The scientist, Miku Kaku.
Yeah.
Something like that. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. You definitely had some big names, some big draws in that film for sure. And I can see,
here's another draw though. Dave Altman. Hey, I'm in that movie.
Yeah, I seen our friend in the chat.
Oh, Dave Altman.
Yeah, it's just interesting times, interesting times. And these conversations talking about source or need to be talked about more. I've been looking at one of the clips is talking that's real popular right now, or getting a lot of attention, is talking about people living breatharians that live off the sun, and more. It's the clip is more talking about like energy and how we're using energy and meridian fields and meridian points, things like that, and that connection to the sun basically. And just looking at the comments, there's like such a sharp divide in the comments. Like, there's some very vicious comments in there, a lot of vicious comments. It's got over 22,000 likes on it. So I think there's like over 5,000 comments, but there's such a sharp divide in there. Either you totally get it and people love what, people are expressing, they love what I'm talking about, or people are like getting or really bothered by, or triggered, I should say, by me talking about how eating food is almost kind of like an addiction that we don't even know about. Like, and there's one comment that come up in there. This person went to Egypt. They were going to sacred sites and things like this and praying. And they did this for like 2 or 3 weeks, and they barely ate anything. Like they ate an apple or two or something like that. The whole 3 weeks they had no need. They had no desire for food. They were vibrating and so hard and going to all these sacred sites that they didn't get hungry or thirsty or anything for a couple weeks. And it's one of the comments on there, just very interesting. It's such, they say when you start getting to the bigger numbers, don't look at the comments, because it'll drive you crazy and stuff. I'm not to that point, I guess, because I still like break the golden rule. I still look at the comments, but that you learn some things and you see some things, and the divide in there is very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about, I like to know what people say. My feelings don't get hurt. And luckily I don't ever have trolls, have anything negative to say about anything that I say, at least at this point. Who knows, to get on the show with a couple 100,000 views, and there's probably maybe going to be a few of those in there. But yeah, I mean, it's some people have certain views on how they think things should go versus someone else, and that's just how I look at it. So it's your perception, and perceptions can be different depending on whose eyes it's being seen through. You know what I mean? So that's why you can never really take that stuff at face value, especially the negative ones, because could be having a bad day, could be just lost a job. Who knows what's really behind the reason why people leave comments like that.
In the long form interview, he asked me, Sean asked me directly, he's like, there's going to be a lot of people that, talk, one way or the other about what you're talking about. I was like, well, I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm just here to share like what I've been through, like my thoughts, and hopefully that triggers you to do your own research, find your own truth.
All right. Coming back. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. Once again, we had a great show tonight. Awesome guest, Caroline, Cory. If you missed it, where were you at? I don't know where you were at, but luckily you can hop in the archives because they're absolutely free. No cost. YouTube.com/at Spaced Out Radio. Dave says there's a plethora of options in there, but you got to go in there to find out. As we go ahead and get right back in to the conversation here, and normally we have our guests in for a 2-hour powerhouse interview, and I know we're going to get a chance to speak to Caroline again, so that's going to be the don't even worry about it. It's going to be an awesome show. You guys already know. And we have other guests on the horizon too, just booked for the next few weeks. We actually, without saying what day this is, because this stuff airs later on radio, but there won't be a show tomorrow. Well, there will be a show tomorrow. It will be a replay for our YouTube audience. So I just want to make sure that we throw that out there. But yeah, a lot of awesome guests are coming on the horizon. Lot more conversations. This is a year where we're leveling up, and that's always my thing. We're raising the bar here. Always commit to do that. Every episode, commit to do that. Period. And we will be also raising the bar on the conversations that we have, the guests that we bring in, the aesthetics, different little things that I have in mind to kind of take us to the next level. And I'm just glad that you guys are here to go along on that ride and support us, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening on the podcast or radio side. We just appreciate you showing up and allowing us to have these conversations that move the needle, because if the needle doesn't get moved, who's going to move it? If we don't sit here and try to move it, we can't depend on someone else to try to move the needle, right? You got to all do your part. You guys are doing your part by showing up, engaging in the conversation as well, and that's how you move things along. So, what do you say, Drew?
That's exactly what she was talking to that particular thing right there in the interview. She was talking about, if everybody's waiting around for disclosure or something to happen, then everybody's waiting. Like some people have to, there's a bit, obviously throughout time, there's always people that step up and say, okay, I'm tired of waiting. Someone has to step up and do it, or no one else is going to do it, and she was alluding to that. And I think, it speaks to what the After Hours show is about, and Spaced Out Radio as a whole, of just trying to put out information, let people share their feelings, share their experiences, so we can all listen to it and deduct our own truth, and that's ultimately what we all have to do is find our own truth in this. And that's through listening through experiences. Sometimes it's people it's their first show, or the very first time they've been interviewed, or the very first couple times they've been interviewed. And sometimes it's people that's, produce 3 or 4 movies and a bunch of books on UFOs, but everybody's story is just as important. But sometimes we can pull a lot more out of a conversation. And the conversation with Caroline, there was just truth bombs after truth bombs, and I can't wait till next time. It's always, and you can just tell, you can just feel a vibe from her. She's not really here to, her main focus is not to make a name for herself. Her main focus is to really do the work. And I really truly feel that when I listen to her talk. And I'm really glad we got a chance to have a conversation with her. It's one thing to listen to a conversation, but it's another thing to have a conversation and bring up those questions that you've always wanted to ask. So thanks for letting me jump in and interrupt maybe when you had something that you want to talk about, but thanks for letting me get those questions in. It really meant a lot.
Hey, dude, you already know, man. You're my guy, man. So that's just what it is. And I appreciate what you do for the show, man. We talk about it all the time. So we're gonna keep this bromance and this brothership going, and just make sure that we do it for you guys. That's sitting up here doing this for you guys. It's exactly why we're doing it, and it goes back to the what you were just saying a minute ago. I had a thought on that, which was like, you were talking about Caroline not really doing this for any fame or any notoriety, and that's how it should be across the board. Like in this field, and when we're talking about the issues that we deal with in this field, it cannot be a self-serving purpose, a self-serving situation where you are looking to build your name, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's building the awareness of the conversation is what is supposed to be going on. So it doesn't matter who sits in the seat. It doesn't matter who's, driving the conversation. It should be about getting the notoriety and being on those big stages, getting out there to create awareness amongst those who don't know, and likely wouldn't know if that, those doors wouldn't open up for people, right? So that's why, when we sit here and we talk about manifesting things and, got to get you on Rogan still and all that, because we got to get the message there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We got to get the message there.
Yeah. It's, I can feel it happening, and what Caroline was talking about, when things come into alignment and you start to feel the message like move. That's kind of where I'm at. Like I'm starting to see, like the other day when I was coming back from California. I think it was even before last weekend show, but I was in the airport and my phone just started going crazy, and it was, the notifications went off for like 8 or 10 hours because of a clip getting posted of the interview, and it just was going. So to feel like the momentum, I feel like it's just now starting to really move, and it's just a very humbling experience, just to be part of it, and it's not about the fame really for me. It's not, I don't look to really, I'm building my own brand, but the basis behind me building my own brand is to reach more people, and I'm starting to do that. And, I feel a lot of gratitude, mostly of seeing it happen and feeling it happen right now. So yeah. And Spaced Out Radio and Rob, and Dave, everybody in the chat that's here, every late weekend with us, having these conversations and engaging in the chat. It's all helped me get to where I am. It's helped me, speaking every weekend. It's helped me really polish up how I articulate things and how I speak about things, and just work on my own stuttering problem that still comes through from when I was in high school at times, and really getting it to the next level and perfecting it. So it's all part of it, and I really appreciate it, and I want to acknowledge that for everybody, the chat and everybody. So
you know what I wish I could do? I used to be and I still am a viewer of content and topics within this community. Like when I leave here, I'll hop on YouTube and I'll watch Dave Scott during the week. I'm right here in the chat with everybody else. I'm just a chat member during the week. And but I just wish, there was a time when I was just a viewer, right? And being able to have that perspective and look around the community as a whole and say, okay, this outlet is doing what something tangible and really are moving the needle. Like I wish I could still sit back and see if that was, if I look at the work that we're doing, which I'm convinced that we are, because the chat will say that, and we get comments on it. Space Out Radio just is growing and growing every single day. So I feel like that's the case, but I just remember, an innocent time when I would be, when I'd be able to just anonymously sit back and look at shows, and there were certain shows that I didn't partake in, and just because that feeling of they're doing the right thing, you know what I mean? Or they're doing this for the right reasons. And, when we just were talking about a moment ago about, not being in this for self as far as, ego, still a lot of that going around, but I just want to make sure, and that's why I always recalibrate myself and not get wrapped up in that whole thing. There's people like, oh man, you're great. Oh, you're awesome. Okay. That just means I'm doing a great job to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. So
yeah.
And it makes, it just gives you that energy to continue to do it. Another thing, this was pretty maybe coincidental, and I get to bring this up. So I did the show the other day on my channel on the Asteroid, and I started the show off because Gary Nolan had put out a 26-page document on rhetoric, like how to respond to the rhetoric of debunkers, I believe was the title of it. And it literally had different scenarios. Okay, a debunker will say things like this, and then this is how you should respond to those debunkers. And it was just so mind-blowing for me, because literally a week or so before that came out, did a show on the channel called Skeptics versus Experiencers, which we literally did that on that show. And so what it did for me is, because you're in a void where you don't necessarily get that feedback, or you're tackling something that someone else hasn't tackled before, so you don't know how that's going to translate to people. And it's kind of like a risk sometimes, right? Because it's like, what if that conversation doesn't sit well, but with an audience? But what it did for me is it validated that when we are taking those risks to have those sort of conversations, that they're the right thing to do. Ends up being the right thing to do, because here we got a Stanford professor who turned right around about a week later and literally wrote up paperwork that aligned exactly what the thought process was for the show. So that was just like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Keep taking those risks, keep having those conversations, because obviously it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a good one, a good moment where I was like, yeah, either he's seen the show, decided to write this book, or we're just on that same thought process, right?
Yeah.
That was huge.
My first book, looking back at everything that happened before that led up to publishing that book, and that book going live, like, and being, being out in circulation. Everything that led up to it, it took months and actually years of thought went into that first book, and I thought about writing that book for a long time. But thinking about every single one of those moments where I could have been like not move forward with the next step to get it published and just stop on it, well, what would happen? Like, there's that book. I don't know how many people. I don't really know. I haven't looked at the sales. Like, I know that it's all over the world. It's in Australia. It's in England. It's in Mexico. It's down all over South America, and it's all over the United States and Canada. But it's also in two college papers. Two people have used my books, cited my books in college theses and everything. So my book has been cited twice in collegiate papers, and so that's something that a lot of books don't have or can't say that they have. But looking back, every just that one thing, I don't even know. There's how many countless times have my book saved someone's life. Like, they might have picked it up and read, a chapter and hear about what some of my struggles or what got me through or whatever. And it might have got them through a moment. I don't know how many people it helped, but I know it helped some. And if it helped one, that's all that matters. But looking back, sometimes I look back at those things and like, what if I wouldn't have moved forward with the transcript? What if I would have stopped at, the transcript stage and not, went to proofreading and sent it to editor and stuff and had them run through it and stuff. So, we all do things that we don't know the implications down the road. And sometimes we can see the fruit of our labors or fruit of what we're doing. And that's just one instance, and there's just so many that all of us do in every moment, whether it's be an interaction that you don't know about in a grocery store that may have changed someone's trajectory of what happens in the rest of that day or the next couple of days, and you might have saved someone and not even know it. So what Caroline was talking about, like, we are all in this moment and we've already completed it. I totally understand that. And that's kind of, a long form of what I feel is there. Like, we're making a difference in every moment. And if you can be positive, you can spread positivity in a very negative world, with that understanding of oneness. Why not do that?
And the way this is a synchronicity of just everything that's being said right now, because I think both of the examples that we just gave essentially goes back to not second guessing, going with your gut, which is one of those senses that are our superpowers, the ones we're supposed to be listening to. Your inner voice, the thing that told you to do it in the first place, and not second guessing that voice inside of you, which is your conscious voice, which usually is the right voice. And it's essentially, showing that by tapping into that ability that we all have, that's likely the right thing to do. You know what I mean? And maybe that serves to some people, because I know a lot of people that second guess things and like, oh no, that would be silly. No, people would think that's just silly, or nah, don't do that. Don't do that. Try doing that thing that you almost second guess yourself on. Just try doing it. And then let's see how it all turns out, because I think you may be pleasantly surprised. I know people that do this. I know people that, won't do something because they think of the way that they think it'll make them look. If it was sent to you, if this was manifested and channeled through you, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. It was the first book was under 50 days from start to publish date. It was under 50 days. The first, it was spirit, not spirit screaming at me, but I was getting messages from everybody around me to write the book. write my first book and everything, and it all just come together so quickly. The co-author come together, we put it together, and it was start to finish. I think it was 40 something days, start to finish. And you know, I know that that book is going to go down as a very important part of history, of, and I just was part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying my ego's not saying that, but I was just part of bringing this, you know, 100 and something page message, I think 118 page message or 108 page message or whatever it is, to the world,
Yeah.
and this, it's, like I said, it's humbling, it's what else do you do? I've had, what else do you do after a true point of enlightenment or a true point of awakening or whatever you want to call it? Just take all the stipulations off it with calling it enlightenment or whatever it is, but that's really what it is. Your consciousness is shifting to a different point, and it won't come back from that point. That's long story short. It was happening in that moment. And what do you do when your consciousness is to that other point where it's not going to come back from? What do you do with it? Like, what do you do moving forward? The only thing you can do is talk about that and help other people come and understand and ultimately experience that in their own form or fashion.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're out there and you thought about, because I've heard people say this, I should go back to school. I should go to school to do this. No, but I'm too old. And I've said this to certain people. I in a moment like that, I sat there and said, you could do 4 years of high school, college, and or 6 years and get a BA or something like that, and you'll only be, instead of 50, 56.
Yeah.
And you still have a whole life ahead of you after that.
Or a painting,
newly educated, or just
or a
regardless of what
song,
it is,
whatever it is, a song, a painting, and Caroline was starting to tap on this a little bit, but a song, a painting, you're bringing a vision that you have. A painting, you're bringing a vision that you have in your head, and you're bringing it onto a paper. You're creating art. Like they say, like the old wise ones, they talk about how that's the closest, when you do a painting or bring a song or bring music or anything, that's the closest to do the quote unquote creator or the universe that you can be, because you're bringing, just like I talked about before, this is why everything is sacred, because you're bringing something from the mind into the physical. But when you're bringing something beautiful out of your mind into the physical, you're the purest point of a creator. At that point, you're bringing forth the purest beauty from the other side into this side. You're bringing forth a song, a painting, a poem, a book, with the intentions of helping other people. Like, what other how there's nothing more pure or beautiful that you can get, of taking the time and trying to be that channel, bringing that beauty, from your mind into this realm. And a painting is one of those things.
And then not only that, you ever looked around and you seen someone, you see someone who has invented something that you just couldn't think of. You're like, man, that was so simple to think of. Why I couldn't have thought about that? Why wasn't it me? But you have to realize that a person didn't really think of that. I mean, they may have, with the knowledge they have, gone through certain steps, but the idea itself was something that was kind of down. I don't want to say downloaded, because that has a stigma on it.
There's a theory around this, that the ideas in the ether, and it reaches people when they connect to certain vibrations. That's why a lot of people have sat there like, oh, they see someone on Shark Tank or something like that, and they had that idea a year or 2 or 6 months before, and then they come to find out that it was around the same time that they got it, that the person on Shark Tank got the idea, but they had it while they were watching Shark Tank or another episode of Shark Tank, and they didn't act on it.
You heard it right there, Jubanky, and we're just kicking knowledge. We'll be back right after this break, guys.
You're listening to
And talking
After
about,
Hours with Mr.
I don't
Rob
know.
G.
You'll just have to wait and see when we get back.
You can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3. The third after hour. So this, we're going to go back to normal hour 3 stuff here, actually. So this isn't deja vu. It may seem like it, but what you're about to get is another dose of Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries, because that's how much we love the guy right here on Spaced Out Radio. We got 2 seconds till we come back. Let's go. Oh, this happened last week. Is it going to crash? Yes, it crashed.
No, Steve.
No, it happens on that break, coming back from this break. So, yeah, something going on there I need to fix.
Crazy.
That happened last week as well. But guess what? I'm going to act like it didn't happen. Watch this.
You tell him, Rob.
This is how we do it. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3. We're going to do things a little bit different. This is not deja vu. I swear it's not deja vu, but we're going to be doing Steve's Dr. Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries starting off hour 3 because he's so awesome and because we have the ability to do that right here tonight. And we'll get into some other good stuff and some UFO weird news a little bit later on. But let's go ahead and get into some Stevie Stockton.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. So we get around to the gate that they locked because it was after dark, and we're supposed to be out of there. So he walks like a football field away from me trying to find somebody to open the gate, but there's nobody there. And I'm freaking out the whole time because he left me in the car by myself, and I'm thinking it's going to come back and get me. He eventually comes back to the car, and we just ended up driving around the big stones they placed around the gate to keep people in or out so people can't drive around it. But we found a way. I was terrified the whole time, mainly because I didn't know what it was, and I never saw anything like that before or heard of anything like that before. But we got out of there, and I was obsessed for the longest time with figuring out what it was. I Googled everything I could think of, and I came across the Reddit story and your other stories about some witness encounters with invisible things in the woods, but no definitive answers. These were just stories people told, just like mine, but nobody seems to know what it is. I'm sure people thought I was nuts for a while because I was talking about it because I wanted to know what it was. I wanted to know what it was, why it was there, where it came from, and why it chose us. Because Lee's Summit is not a small town. A lot of people bike and hike out there along with fishing and camping. So I was hoping that somebody else had seen it. As well, how am I going to find out unless I talk about it, share my story, and ask questions? But as you would expect, everybody just kind of looked at me like I was crazy. My boyfriend wouldn't talk about it with anyone, barely would talk about it with me. And there I was, obsessed over it. Eventually, I just got tired of looking without finding any answers, so I kind of put it out of my mind after I spent hours researching, telling people my story, asking people with no real progress made, and no real answers solving my riddle. I even went back and visited the lake by myself, trying to see if I could see it again. I went in the daytime, though. I'm not that brave. I mean, I really wanted an answer. My desire to find answers was stronger than my fear of the entity. Who knows, if I would have ran into it again by myself, I might change my mind about which one was stronger at that point. When I found that citation the other day, and it all came back into my mind, has become a strong guiding focal point again in my life. Seems like it's not quite as taboo to talk about these things as it was 4 years ago, and I still want to find answers. I'm hoping you or somebody will talk about it on your show or other shows and amongst the people that you communicate with, or just anyone in general you come across, and get the ball rolling on finding more evidence on what it is, who else has had these sightings. I know more and more sightings of this invisible creature have happened, and I believe we need to know and should be making it a priority to find out what they are exactly. I feel something that can cloak itself with invisibility is a big deal, and we should educate ourselves on what we're dealing with. And you would think the government would be all over that. I won't settle for assumptions. We need to know what they are. No guessing. I've heard Bigfoot and aliens, but I want to know for sure. I want to know 100%, no question. Okay, so that was the first experience at Lake Jacomo. The other one was just a couple months ago when I went to the lake all by myself, because I'm a big girl, but kidding, making jokes. But I was alone, and on this day, there was nobody out there. I could have screamed, and there would have been nobody near enough to hear me. The overall energy was a little unnerving. I typically always walk down a certain trail, and I go down by the water, and I look for driftwood, then I go back to the trail and keep walking around, checking on my little spots for gorgeous driftwood I can't live without. That day, it just felt different. I felt uneasy, and I thought I heard somebody holler something while I was down by the water, but I didn't see anybody, and I know for a fact there were no cars parked at the trailhead when I came down just moments before. I can remember feeling like I needed to constantly be aware of my surroundings, and generally, I'm stuck in the dirt looking for arrowheads or looking for driftwood, and I'm not paying attention to my surroundings. But that day, something told me I needed to. Of course, there was also the fact that I kept seeing what I thought was a bird flying from one tree to another out of my peripheral vision. But when I looked up, there'd be nothing there, and this happened several times. But instead of leaving, I got out my phone and I started recording. It went on for about, 20 minutes. Then I turned around and went back, ignoring my gut feeling, but I made it out of there. And when I got home, I went over my video footage. And lo and behold, I caught a black orb. I know I saw it follow me around. I caught it no less than 14 times on 3 different videos, plus a couple of other different anomalies. And I would like to know what they are and what it meant. I did look up orbs and their colors and their meanings. Black orbs usually get a bad reputation because they usually accompany something bad happening to somebody. But the role of these entities, as far as I understood it to be, is to make you uncomfortable so you leave a certain situation because there's something in the area or in front of you that's going to harm you. So really, in my eyes, they're a blessing. It's like they're watching out for you. Even if they make you feel uncomfortable, it's for a good reason. On the same token, I didn't leave when I felt like I should have that day. Instead, I kept going and recording, and nothing bad happened to me. So maybe they weren't even black orbs after all. Maybe just some other type of entity. I don't know, but I would like some answers. Thanks, Christina. Stick being encounter. My experience with a stick being wasn't unpleasant because it was so mischievous and made me smile. This was 30 years ago, and I collected bare winter branches from the floor of the woods to display in a white china vase in my home. After a few days, I started to find things disappearing, then a little time later, finding the missing object in a ridiculously visible place. Example, losing my watch from beside my kitchen sink, then finding it balanced on the rim of the bath a floor above me, and after I'd had a bath when there was no sign of my watch there. Another time, I saw peripherally a small black knobby stick man about 18 inches high and twig limbs, about as thick as your little finger, an oval smooth face, sparkling eyes, thin-lipped, big grin, and really funny nub-like hair and frothy bits too, and a darkish charcoal color, peeping at me from various places. And I would hear a rather delightful tinkly laugh, and I knew it meant me no harm and was having fun with me, so I began chatting with him. Knew he was male somehow, as if he were just a pal or friend visiting me and leaving out nuts and honey in a tiny pot and bits of fruit at night, and it was always gone in the morning, even the tiny pot. I knew, after a time, that he wasn't there by chance, so I thought back to see when he may have arrived. It didn't take long to realize it was the sticks I'd taken. He'd come with them. So I took them from the vase and announced I was sorry I'd taken the twigs without permission and was taking them back where I'd found them, but that I'd enjoyed his company and pleased he'd liked my food gifts, and he was welcome to return any time. I returned the sticks and twigs and said sorry for just taking them and left, but learned a valuable lesson. Never to take things from nature, but always ask permission first. It's so important because nature spirits can cause you misfortune, even illness, if you disrespect them. I always ask, even when berry picking. And if I feel a negative atmosphere, I go somewhere else. I used to call my visitor Twig Man, and yes, he occasionally returned, and I gave him food gifts. And sometimes he left me seeds, which I planted. This is true, and it never struck me as being odd or thinking I was delusional. I'm very stoic and level-headed, but I'm not blinkered. Please respect nature, and it will respect you, and often give you things money can't buy. Good things for your well-being. Thanks. Signed, Anonymous. Shadow Entity Encounter. This happened to me in 2016. I moved from New Mexico to Washington State. Well, I used to go walking with family members every morning after taking their children to school near Battleground, Washington, in Battleground Lake State Park. On this particular day, she had errands to run, so I found myself going alone. I parked my car, get out, stretch, get ready for my 3-mile daily walk. So I started off walking. Got about 5 minutes into the park, and everything felt quite eerily quiet at that moment, and nothing looked familiar. I got this weird feeling I was no longer alone, and I could feel someone or something watching me as I panicked and started walking faster. I could hear twigs breaking around me in every direction. So I started walking even faster. Suddenly, I was in a full-on running sprint. I broke from the tree line and ended up really far from my car, like 15 minutes away, when I know I had barely walked a few minutes. I could still hear hurried footsteps behind me, though, and all of a sudden I felt hands behind my back, and I was shoved so hard to the ground. Whatever had done it with such hatred and anger that when I fell, I actually heard my bones break underneath me. I'd shattered my elbow and broke my wrist, and that's not even the worst part. It had done it in front of an oncoming vehicle. Well, thank God the person driving had seen me before I was pushed in front of his car, but he did say he saw what looked like a humanoid, shadowy figure literally push me in front of his car. The damn thing literally tried to kill me. And I tell you one, I never went for a walk in those woods again. Signed, Anonymous. The Ghosts in the Barn. When I was a kid in Ohio, my friends had a building behind their house. The big part of the building was locked up, and the one end they used as a garage. I was snooping around and found a secret passage into the other side of the building that was locked up. The garage had a second floor, and I went up there, and the sun was shining just right, so it was coming through a hole in the wall. I went over, pushed on it, and it moved. I pushed harder, and it slid to the right, and there was an opening. I looked in, and it was the huge other side of the building, full of all kinds of stuff. There was a ladder that you had to go down from the second story to the ground level. I climbed down the ladder and was looking around. It was like King Tut's treasure room to a little kid. An old Victrola and stacks of 78 RPM records, stacks of old tin-type photos. I thought they were gold, so I started shoving them in my jean jacket pockets. Just then, I heard a crash, and things started flying through the air. Then a big crowbar flew past my head, and I hauled ass up that big ladder and into the second story over the garage and down the stairs and ran all the way home. I still have those tin types. Those ghosts were pissed that I was messing with their stuff. Signed, Anonymous.
All right, all right. That was not Deja Vu. That was Steve Stockton Tells Untold Mysteries for the second time tonight because he's so awesome and you can just do stuff like that when you're Steve Stockton. As we go ahead and get ready to have this conversation. So, did you get a chance, Drew, to watch the Jason Sands interview here on Spaced Out Radio? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Some of it today, yes, I did. I was running errands and everything, so I was listening to it. The first part of it, it sounds like, sounds like he had an experience. I didn't get. It was like over a 3-hour interview, I think, wasn't it? That he did with
No, he stayed 2. He stayed for the full 2, and then they did the UFO report. What kind of vibe did you get? I mean, because that, I had some thoughts during the interview, like as an audience member, just as a viewer sitting back, and if I had Jason Sands in front of me, there would be at least one good question I would want to ask him for sure. And not just to single out Jason Sands per se, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about any whistleblower to be exact, because I started seeing whistleblowers a little differently after that interview.
I was thinking, I was like, what if I was a what if I just put whistleblower in front of my name? Like I was in the military, but like I'm not talking about really military stuff. One of the things he did talk about that really did strike me as, okay, this guy really does know what he's talking about, at least, is the level of secret security clearances, like top secret, classified, and all that stuff. I was secret. And one thing I can say, what the main focus of the security clearance things, like the number one focus is weapon systems. So that's one of the things that I can't ever talk, that I really can't talk about particulars about weapon systems of different planes and stuff that I have privy to from my time in, which really means nothing to disclosure or anything like that,
Yeah.
but that's really one of the main focuses of security clearances, is weapon systems. And he did mention that in the interview. I think I got about an hour into it, and having toddlers just kind of took over and stuff, and couldn't get to the rest of it.
Always, buddy.
But
always.
I did want to take note of that, and I did when I was listening to it, I did want to mention that is one of the main focuses of security clearances, or one of the big focuses of security clearances is weapon systems.
And I get all that, right? And that's understandable. But here's my thing. Here's where I'm starting to get to with whistleblowers. It's great. Continue coming out. We need as many to come out as possible. But the thing that I hope changes about future whistleblowers is to not be so gray about the NDAs. Because I had a question I was going to pose to Jason Sands, and it was more so about that being just so gray. Like, okay, granted, you can't talk about certain things because of the NDA, but couldn't you kind of more clearly define the lines? Like what lines, what limitations do you have, right? Like, so you can't talk about, just like you said right now, you can't talk about the weapon systems, but there may be another part or aspect of what you were doing that you could potentially talk about, right?
Sure.
So you can't do this off limits, but other things you could probably tap dance and do some things with. But it just seems like all whistleblowers now, and maybe historically as well, are staying in that gray area. And then it's like, okay, well, if you're going to stay in that gray area and we're talking about credibility here, how can I argue on your behalf if a skeptic, wants to step in and tear down the fact that you're being so vague when they call it? Trust me, bro, I hate using that term anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no.
when they're, when you're being so vague and they have the right to kind of poke at you because of that, how can I stand behind you because you're being just as gray and vague with me, a person who is like willing to shore up your statements, right? Yeah. And so I'm just like, I think that presents a problem. I think that presents a problem because now, just like you said a moment ago, you were in the military. You had a top secret clearance. There are things you can't say.
Secret.
Secret. Okay.
Secret. I want to. Yeah. I don't ever want to put out. I want to try to be especially on stuff like that. I want to be, clear as possible, as secret clearance. And thinking about it, like a lot of stuff that was covered under my secret clearance for weapon systems can be accessed via the internet now.
But hold that thought real quick, because what I'm trying to say is that because you held a clearance and you may have been under NDA behind that, so certain things you can't talk, you could, not, well, I'm sure, just like you said, you probably could look up some stuff, but okay, say you were in some of these same departments that Jason Sands was, a previous whistleblower. So at least when someone looked up your credentials, they at least showed that it lined up there. But you could literally, because the rule is to be so vague on these NDAs, you could make up the fact that you were a part of something, because who can check it? Because you get to hide behind the vague fact that you're behind this NDA, and the area is so gray that even if you may have been associated, you could potentially, if you wanted to step in the limelight for whatever. And this is the thing that skeptics say, but it's starting to make more sense now, because when you continue to hear how vague our whistleblowers are being, I think the one who really, who has stepped forward, and I'm not saying all, because there's like David Grush, I think he went above and beyond. For whatever reason, he was able to do all that he did and say all he said. So I don't consider him being in that gray area, but there are just ones that come out that tend to almost, so are you protecting the NDA, or are you hiding behind the NDA? Because we can't look over and check, so you get to say that you were a part of something that you may not have been. And this is not in relation to Jason Sands. I just want to make that clear, because he was just on here the other day. I'm just talking about just whistleblowers in general, and how can we change that? That was one of my questions for Jason Sands, but they didn't have time to ask that. Dave didn't, but it's how can we change that?
Yeah, who verifies, and who's the gatekeeper, or who's the gatekeepers that says, this person was this or that? I do, and that's just a question. That's just an open-ended question, but I do know, like in the special operations community, if someone says that they're a Green Beret, or they say they're a Navy SEAL, there are groups like of veterans that were in those groups that still have connections back to the teams and stuff like that can connect and verify things like that. So it would, I being the devil's advocate, to what you're saying, is there is ways to verify, and there's even in these top tier, tier 1, tier 2 operators there, and those are the most secretive, units in the military. There are ways to verify those people. So it would stand to reason that there is ways to verify these other people too. There's someone can't just say they were in, a unit of some type, and because they get called out, especially these days, it happens really fast.
Well, when I say that, I know there are going to be certain individuals that can look into something like that, and behind the scenes, kind of hush hush roundabout way for them to do that. But for the average citizen who's out here, just Joe, not Joe Monk, but Joe Blow, just a regular Joe out there who is supposed to accept a whistleblower at face value, because that average person really doesn't have the tools to be able to find out that other stuff. And so, my thing is, just like I asked you a moment ago, with the clearance that you had with the NDA, there's a line you could walk, there's literally a line, and you could be really vague about it if you want to, you know what I mean? And kind of not be as clear. And it just feels for me like we're seeing a lot of whistleblowers that choose to take the vague route versus let me ride that fine line. And we're going to go ahead and jump into our final break of the night right here. We'll talk more about this right after the break. because it was on my mind. I plan to do this for hour 3 anyway, talk about my feeling about the whistleblower. So maybe this isn't Dave 101. Maybe this is unapologetically Mr. Rob G. Let me change the label up here. And then we'll be back right after this break. Last break of the night. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. See you guys in just a minute. All right, we are clear. Yeah, no, this was the plan for me to talk about this in hour 3. Because it's just, and we'll kind of save it for when we come back, but it just bugs me because I'm hating the fact that I'm starting to look at it like that. But I think that, just like you said, you could be a little more clear if you wanted to, right? And it just makes me think, okay, these skeptics are actually right in some cases for pointing this out and calling these whistleblowers out. They're not really attacking. They're really saying, hey, dude, don't give us more information than what you're giving us, right? Or be a little more definitive on the thing that you're saying, and
yeah, I wouldn't, for me, like the line is very clear, and there's very ethical reasons why I wouldn't share some of the information that as part of the secret, that was covered as part of my job in the military. And I just know, deep in my heart why I shouldn't share that, why it's part of that. I don't know how it would be like in these other programs where I was holding basically secrets to humanity, because the secrets I hold, it's like stuff that no one really care about. And like I said, most of it can be accessed through internet now anyway. We're talking about 2007 when it's a lot about military aircraft and stuff like that. But a lot of it can be looked up now. But the stuff that I would never share is just stuff that I know shouldn't be shared anyway. But I wouldn't know how it would be on the other side of craft retrieval, or taking care of biologics, or some NHI biologics pilots and stuff like that. I wouldn't know what it would be like on that side of it. So I can't really speak to what I would do in that situation. But the whole, to talk about, just to speak on the whole whistleblower thing, it's almost like it's become its separate entity inside the disclosure movement of the whistleblower movement inside the disclosure movement. If you have whistleblower in front of your name, it automatically lies credence and raises someone's eyebrow. It's like a trigger word. It's weird.
Remember what you're saying right here, because we're gonna have to say it again after the break. It's really good, is what I'm saying. It's really good, and you just need to say it again after the break.
Give it a shot. Sometimes it's a one and done type of deal.
I know. That's why I'm like, dude, you're saying, oh man, hold on, hold the thought.
It's hard. Man. It's hard, man. Like when I get excited about something.
I know, man. Believe me.
Yeah. So what's up? How's it going?
Chilling like a villain, man.
Why are you not going to be here tomorrow night, by the way?
Las Vegas. I had in previous engagement, and something I had to go to, and that's why. Yeah, so I'll be out there. I'll have to air a replay, and I'm gonna pick a good one because I usually do. One that people really haven't seen or forgot about. That's the thing. That's why, as Dave says, there's a plethora of there really is. Because when I hop in there, I'm pulling out. One day I pulled out the Stormy Daniels interview. I pulled out the who else did I pull out? Somebody, couple Dolan interviews. You know what I mean? Some of the ones that people were like, wow, yeah, I forgot that happened. Some of them I've
some
never.
Of your boy Drewski in there, so don't be afraid to pull those out.
You want me to pull one of those out? I could do that.
No. Hey, let's ask the chat. Let's ask the chat. Who wants to see a replay tomorrow?
I have my ask the chat button here. Hold on. No,
Ask the chat.
That's what I use on my show. Ask the chat. So
who wants to see a replay of Drew tomorrow night? And if anyone's got a fave, let Robbie G know.
Let me know, or either way, I'll just find something really fun.
Yeah,
I'll find something really fun.
Yeah,
I use this on my show. So
ask the chat.
Ask the chat.
Yeah. All right, so we got about 15 seconds left before we come back from radio here, and we continue with the conversation on whistleblowers. Love them and you love to hate them, Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, after hour number 3. We're on the back half of the third hour. We're almost home. We're almost home. It was an awesome show. Once again, much love to Caroline, Cory. Hour 1. You got to go back if you missed it. Archives, youtube.com/the Spaced Out Radio. As we go ahead and get back into the conversation where we were talking about the issue with whistleblowers today, because it appears like we're getting a lot of the gray area stuff. And for me, I positioned this, and this is what I was going to name the conversation, which was like NDA protection, or are you hiding behind the NDA? Because it seems like it's very easy to hide behind NDA. Oh, NDA. Yeah. Can't talk about that because NDA. They really can't elaborate too much because NDA, but, X, Y, and Z. And so it's like, okay, I know you can walk up to that line, because I think we've seen that with some of the other whistleblowers, like David Grush, who can say, but Crash Biologics, I saw X, Y, and Z, this, and that, but I can't go too much further than that. Okay, right. That's what I'm saying.
We gotta go to a skiff. We gotta
go
to a skiff.
But you divulged at least the stuff that you could, because for me, aliens you can't put an NDA on the extraterrestrial presence. So if what you have to say is related to the extraterrestrial presence, there has to be a line you could literally walk right up to it without now spilling into the government secret side of it. Government secret can't be the extraterrestrial presence. They can't be the same thing. So every single whistleblower should be able to walk all the way up to that Black Project line or that secret program line and say everything else except for that little piece. And I think so. And someone will probably say, well, that's why they have to go to Dopser. So now is Dopser there to kind of, and then even in Dopser's case, right? I guess I don't know if there's a dispute process for that. Maybe that's something we could look into, but I don't know. So if they say, yeah, you can't talk about this, and this, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, because the thing you're saying I can't talk about had nothing to do with government secrets or anything like that. That part strictly has to do with extraterrestrials. Why would you say I couldn't talk about that? Like, is there a dispute process maybe that whistleblowers have where they can kind of go back and say, hey, nah, that's not fair. The same way they do with FOIA requests and redactions, and like John Greenwald can go ahead and dispute that. And then they'll either say, well, okay, we were wrong here. Here's more information, or nope, can't do anything else. Like, is there something like that there? Because the problem is that if there is, then we should be able to see the whistleblower go through that process to say, hey, yeah, I know I'm being kind of gray, but Dopser said I couldn't do this. So, okay, well, now let's see you go back through the Dopser process and dispute that part of it, because it's a part that shouldn't be able to. And the question can only be asked to someone who's on that inside, who has signed the NDA, because it's like, how far you can go. I don't. So I got to ask you, like, how far could you go without crossing that line? And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask Jason Sands, because, and then and I also wanted to ask him if there, in the future, do you see, knowing what you know about your own NDAs, do you see a future where a future whistleblower could do that, where they could say everything else that wasn't, related to government secret and kind of just spill the beans on everything else? I wanted to ask him that too, but didn't get a chance to. But I guess maybe we'll get a whistleblower on here to be able to do that. But
yeah,
I think it's important. I think it's important to know that.
One thing I did hear him say that I really liked was ultimately when it comes to things, he kind of outweighs, he weighs out whether it is going to be beneficial for humanity, the information, and that would trump that, or something to that effect. I don't know exactly how he put it, but he said basically at certain times, you have to kind of look past it of what's it going to be more beneficial for? Are you gonna follow the letter of man, or basically, follow what's good for mankind? And I really like. I don't know. I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but that's the gist of what he was saying in that, and I really vibe with that too. There's a lot of stuff that he was saying that I really do vibe with. But that being said, the whole whistleblower thing, it's kind of a cult, or a disclosure inside the disclosure itself of the whistleblower, cultist type thing. Like if you have to label a whistleblower in front of you, you're automatically, you automatically have to listen to them because they're a whistleblower, and it always seems like there's some type of hierarchy in what we have in this disclosure movement, or the whatever we got going on here, whatever you want to call it. But we always have some type of hierarchy that manifests itself, and the whistleblower I see as, why should their stories be listened to before all these other millions of stories of people that has come forward? Why just because you're attached to the government? And that goes back to preconditioning that we've, generational conditioning that we've had of having to trust the government, and anything connected to the government or anything like that, then it gives credence. So it's I'm not talking down or saying that these whistleblowers are not bringing forth information, but I think we need to stop this addiction to creating these groups and these subgroups inside the whole thing. If someone has some information to come forward and share your information. You don't need to have some type of title on it, and that's kind of my take on it.
And look at this. This is the other part of it, right? Because the biggest problem I have is that, first of all, what I said about it's a gray area. You could probably be more descriptive on what you're saying. But the other part is that because it's so gray, it allows people who may not be telling the truth to hide within that frame. So they get to stand in that whistleblower ring and not be able to be questioned about why they're being vague. Like they just get to say blanket statement because I have an NDA, I can't say anything else.
Yeah.
And this person could literally not be telling the truth. They could have been in a department that was close to some of the things that are going on, but what they actually were engaged with could not be true. And that's what gets shadowed by the NDA and the grayness of not being able to give more details. And what it reminds me of is it reminds me actually of the UFO community. And when I say that, a portion of the UFO community, because obviously you have experiencers. I've shown you receipts. I'm an experiencer. Others have receipts, and others tell genuine stories because you can tell who's genuine and who's not. Then you have the ones that are not telling the truth, but they know because this is a community where sometimes you don't get receipts that because you just didn't have the ability to, that they get to kind of hide in with the other experiencers because you can't prove that they didn't actually see what they saw, right? And it's kind of the same thing, and that's one of the things that bugs me about the community, and I wish there was a way that I knew how to kind of separate the two, because the people who just make stuff up, is just ridiculous that you would do that, for one.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing on the whistleblower front. It's ridiculous if you sit up there and act like you have information that you don't really have. You know, very comparable.
Yeah. One thing, the law of averages says that this disclosure movement and the ring of people that keep getting put up on interviews, there has to be some infiltration of the powers to be that's come into it. You know, that's just a numbers game I'm talking about. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular, but we have people that are heading up this disclosure movement that have been known to be part of research groups, and who knows what other types of groups. Like I said, I'm not pointing any fingers, but
me either. Start real quick, because I want to reiterate that, because I just want to make sure. No, we're not pointing fingers at any one particular person at all.
But numbers says that it has to be infiltrated at some level by the powers to be that are trying to influence an objective or a direction of understanding one way. And that's just saying, okay, that's been the pattern so far. We would be intelligent to say that pattern is going to continue, and why wouldn't it continue in this one of the most monumental things ever to happen in human history? The integration of star beings. Why wouldn't it be attempted to be manipulated? So that's why we have to go back to discernment, and we really have to really listen to our gut on things. If something doesn't seem right to you, chances are it might not be right. And if you look around and everyone else having the same feeling, there's a pretty good chance that something's up. And I think we all have ideas coming up as we're talking about this, of different instances and things like that. But like I said, it's I think the light is going to win in the end. I think it's inevitable, and that because that's what light does. It wins in the end. So.
Yeah, what goes on in the dark comes out in the light. We know that one. That's exactly right, and it definitely holds a lot of value. And we could leave it there. I think we did that pretty good, in just to get it out, right? So this is unapologetically Mr. Rob G. Andrew Banky, actually. Exactly.
Let it out.
But I'm still I'm going to do a show on that topic on my channel, but because there's other aspects that I want to look into to kind of try to lay the foundation on that. So excellent. And you should probably come over, Drew, on that day when we do that, man. And I think it'll be pretty cool. What you think?
I would love to, for sure. Just let me know. And
yeah, you know it, buddy. You know it. So here's what we'll do. Let's jump out of this unapologetically, Mr. Rob G, and I'll read a couple news stories here, and then we'll wrap things up here. So let me go ahead and do that. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, UFO and weird news of the week. Couple stories if we can get through both of these here. But I want to start off with this one here. So it's a man left in disbelief after photo confirmed what he saw during near-death experience, NDE, which actually, yeah, okay, I think I had one of these the other day. I'll tell you after this story here. So those who claim to have had a near-death experience are often met with eye rolls and sighs of skepticism, as they often have no evidence to back up their accounts of what they went through. A lot of people find it hard to believe. But luckily for this guy, a photo corroborated exactly what he saw when he had a brush with death as a teenager. Zach Tavkar was undergoing treatment for leukemia as a 14-year-old when he had his bizarre experience. Others have claimed to have swapped souls with aliens or that they were brought back from the brink by a spiritual guide. But according to Zach, he felt like he was surrounded by liquid love. The life coach and personal trainer explained that after being diagnosed with leukemia, which is a cancer of the blood that affects bone marrow, doctors put him on a steroid called prednisone. This medicine is used to treat a wide range of health problems, according to the NHS, and works by reducing inflammation and calming down your immune system. Speaking to Shaman Oaks, Zach explained that although prednisone is helpful for treatment, it also causes the bones to become a little brittle. As a result of this, he suffered a number of small fractures in his spine while he was in the hospital, and medics sent him off to get a back brace to give him some support. Zach, who is based in Reno, Nevada, said he attended the appointment with his dad and his younger brother, who was 4 at the time, but he began to feel a little fuzzy while the brace was being fitted. I was probably there about 15 minutes, and this fuzziness just started getting heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, Zach said. I was kind of rushing at this point to get to my dad's truck, which is probably about 50, 60 yards away. I finally take a seat. I'm like, okay, just calm down. Just relax. You're going to be okay. And I looked at my dad, who was probably about 30, 40 meters away, and I said, Dad, I'm going to, and then I went black. Zach explained that he had opened his eyes to find that he was in a tunnel filled with luminescent, goldy, silvery, white, flowing energy, while he also spotted a shadowy figure who was wearing a trench coat. He continued, I was just enamored in this space, like, whoa, what is this? Feeling completely at peace, no concern, no worry. I didn't even think of my body. 1 minute I was there, the next minute I was in this beautiful tunnel. So I looked forward, and then the shadow figure is just kind of waiting for me. Immediately I thought to myself, oh, that's Grandpa. He explained he then had an inaudible conversation with his dad's late father, who had died 7 years earlier. He just told me everything's going to be okay. You're going to get through everything. You just have to keep going, Zach said. It felt like we were just in this space forever. But the then teenager said he was suddenly sucked back into his body to find that he couldn't move due to passing out after the brace appointment. Zach said, I opened my eyes and there's my dad with a terrified face, just like, whoa, what the heck? And my little brother, who's just 4 years old, is just terrified as could be. He decided to keep the details of his near-death experience to himself for a couple of weeks because he didn't want to panic his worry-wart father. But he later recounted the strange tale to his dad, recalling how he had seen his grandfather in the tunnel of light, and inevitably the parent had some questions for his son. Zach added immediately his eyes kind of opened and went the other way, and he goes, what did he tell you? What did he say? What did he look like? And I go, I don't know, but he was wearing a trench coat. I was like, that is weird. I've never seen Grandpa wear a trench coat because I only knew him until I was 7. Months later, Zach claimed that his dad stumbled across a picture of his grandfather in Prague in the late 20s, looking the exact same as he did during the near-death experience. So that was my validation that what I did experience was very real, Zach said. I think my dad was surprised by that too, because I don't think my granddad really was a trench coat wearer. He was a professional man. He was a chemist and stuff like that. So I think he wore more professional suits, not a trench coat. But in his younger years, when he was young, dapper man, he was wearing this big trench coat. Zach went on to conquer his leukemia before becoming a mind, body, and spirit coach and a certified exercise physiologist, while he also shares videos online about spiritual awakenings. What is the... Okay, so with all that synchronicity right there with today's show, I had an experience 2 days ago. I was going to do a show about this. I was going to make a short video about this because it was so strange. So I'm going to run this down. I was obviously having a dream. I was on this jet. We'll call it like a private jet that wasn't flying. It was on the ground, and they were driving it on the ground. Maybe somebody could tell me what all this means. But we got to this little point where it just continued to go in circles. Then that dream shifted to me being inside of a house with what felt like family members. There was a bedroom that had kids in it that were Black kids, African-American kids. And it seemed like it was from maybe 30, 40 years ago. And the faces in there, I didn't personally recognize, but they felt all familiar, like as if I did. And so I go in there, and these kids it's on bunk beds, and they're sitting with their heads under the covers, kind of poking out on the top bunk, like 3 or 4 in the top bunk, 3 or 4 in the bottom bunk. They're interacting, they're giving their names and all this. I'm sitting there weirded out and tripped out because it's like I stepped back in time for this moment. And so I leave out of there and I go back to where the family is. And I said to myself, you know what? I should go back. I said to one of the family members, I should go back and take a picture or a video because that was strange. So I go back to go take this picture. There's this 10-foot tall, muscular, dark-skinned entity is what I'll just say. And when I went to try to take the picture, it grabbed me and squeezed me and kept me on the ground and wouldn't let me get up, and squeezed me until I couldn't breathe. And I think I was literally not breathing in real life in that moment because I woke up and I had a headache, and it literally felt like I stopped breathing. And I was right there. And I think that was literally almost a near-death experience. I think that was like very close to that. And it scared the daylights. I couldn't go. I was only asleep for an hour, and I could not go back to sleep that day at all after that. Very creepy. Never happened to me before. And I just wanted to put that out. Just happens to line up with that story that we just read. I don't know, Drew. We got about 20 seconds. You want to go ahead and say something to the audience? Oh, you're muted.
Synchronicities, pay attention. You know, it's always there. And the more, some people say that it's the more you look for it, the more it's going to pop up. But I think there's a reason for that. I think there's a deeper reason. So
let me know if you know anything about reading that dream, guys. Even if it's scary. We want to thank Caroline and Cory for coming in today and making this an awesome show. We also want to thank Drew Banke for hanging in there and doing the thing tonight. We also want to thank the man that you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. He's the guy that rocks us out each and every weekend and tells us never say never again. You know why? Because the phenomena is real, which means anything, everything is possible. So if you like what you heard tonight, you appreciate the show, go ahead and make sure you throw your horns up as well. We definitely want to thank you, our listeners and viewers, from whenever in the world you may be listening from. Thanks for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. What's that, Drew Banke?
We own the night.
This broadcast is copyright SOR Media Ventures Limited, Spaced Out Radio. It has been a pleasure once again serving you as your host. I am Mr. Rob G. That's Drew Banke. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, this is not a goodbye, nor a farewell. However, next time you see us, you can best believe we will be getting right back to business right here. We will see you guys next week. Have a great rest of your night. Take care. All right. That is a show. That is a show. That is a show. And yeah.
Show.
That's
3
a
hours.
show. That is it.
3
That
hours.
is definitely a show, Drew. That is a show. That,
Caroline,
sir, is a
Cory,
show.
Thank you, sister, for being here. What a banger. Can't wait to get her back.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we'll have I'll have something set up for you guys for tomorrow. Don't worry about it. We'll have it posted. I'll post it probably later tonight. And we'll be back to business next week. Who do I have? Oh man, I'm trying to remember. See, I gotta check my calendar real quick. Krista and let me see. They may be watching like, you don't even remember who you have that we're on next week. No, I do. It is Christy and Jared. Christy and Jared will be on next week. They do like archaeological digs and all sorts of real cool stuff, uncovering the history of humanity. That should be a real awesome show. I can't wait for that. And Dave Scott, let's see who Davey has on Monday. Dave Scott will have okay, so I don't think he's posted the shows yet. Nope, hasn't posted. Dave Scott will be back on Monday. I'm not sure what. Oh, he posted tomorrow. That's why. You guys have a great rest of your night. We're up out of here, and you guys take care. See you next time. Straight up.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.